Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Time with Eric Kahnert, live from the News 8 Right Now studios. This is our third episode now, so by now you know I've been a long-time youth sports coach. I'm here to bring you experts to make you and your athletes smarter, stronger, and mentally prepared to take the game to the next level. That's the important part today. Mentally prepared. We have a performance psychologist, mind and body specialist on the show here. She's going to help get your player thinking about what to think and how to win the mental game. We will also have a touching story about the Kentucky Derby, a man in hospice care getting one last wish to attend his 80th Kentucky Derby in a row. And hockey's coming to North County. We'll tell you about plans for a new minor league hockey team and youth hockey that will follow at that rink at Oceanside's Front Wave Arena. First, we want to dive into the mental game for our young athletes. You know, we hear from coaches all the time saying, you got to believe in yourself. Turns out that's just a throwaway motto, but there is so much more to that phrase. Sports psychology studies showing that your brain actually processes a game differently when you're prepared. You need to give your brain proof that you're ready and can handle the pressure of the game. I'm no mental game expert, but that's why we're bringing in our next guest, Coach Marisa Elbers, the founder of Athletic Minds with an MA in performance psychology. Marisa, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, Marisa. Hey, why don't we start off by telling a little bit about yourself, the sports that you grew up playing, and then how you got into the psychology background and more on the mental game.
I grew up doing all the outdoor sports, and I also did dance when I was 4 years old.
Okay.
That worked my way into playing basketball during my high school years, and then I continued on. I didn't play in college, unfortunately, but I do continue to play sports to this day. And I actually had a bad injury about 15 years ago, and once I got better from that, I ended up finding the sports psychology program. And I ended up doing yoga teacher training at the same time, paired those things together, and ultimately found my purpose in life.
That's fascinating. This injury, what did it help you learn about the psychology of sports and the desire and the drive to get back into it? It helped you kind of find your way into this program, right?
Yeah, injury is definitely one of, if not the hardest things that athletes will go through.
Right.
And I think there's not a lot of mental support. Sometimes we don't want to talk about all of the things that we're experiencing.
Sure.
So it can be really helpful to have somebody there for you. But yeah, the getting recovered from that was very challenging. So I don't really want anybody to have to experience what I did.
Right.
So hopefully I can, be there to support them for that.
Okay, so you got this background and you wanted to help athletes with their mental game. What have you learned through your academic studies and everything about the mind when it comes to athletic competition? And I know maybe it's not so easy to answer how you win the mental game, but let's talk about ways to make that happen for our young athletes.
Well, the mental game is everything going on in the mind, so it helps you to prepare, practice, and compete. So I think the main thing is having a plan and being able to, feel confident going in. So all of the preparation that you put in, it helps you to feel confident going into your performance.
Absolutely. It's a lot of homework. It's a lot of study time. It's a lot of knowing your own mind, your own body, and how you can use the two together to be at the top of your game. The mental game to performance, we always think about, how did they perform? What was their performance like? What were their stats? Those are all physical, right? Those are all physical things, how we physically prepared. Our guests last week, we talked about, physically preparing for the game. Talk about the mental part. How important is that mental game to our performance? That's a really critical piece.
Yeah, athletes can have all the talent and they spend a lot of time working on their skills. Mm-hmm. But if they end up getting nervous or frustrated or maybe start overthinking, then their performance can go downhill pretty quickly. So the mental skills can help them stay composed when they need it the most.
Yeah, and that's tough to channel for our younger kids. I know that you go around, you go to high-level sports teams, and you go to weight rooms, and you go to gyms to train these athletes. Many of them are at the top of their game. But, many of them are just kind of starting to get used to the stresses of sports. So for our younger kids, how do they tap into that mental game? What's some of the things they can do?
Kids can tap into the mental game the best when it's pretty simple and repeatable. So I like teaching them how to breathe during yoga and then helping them develop a reset routine. So they basically just take a breath, say something to themselves like attack or calm, and then take a quick action, and then they can move on to what they need to focus on next.
I love that. How much time, how much preparation to get ready for the mental game? You mentioned yoga. Maybe that's something they could do before they even get to the practice field for warm-ups, right? And how do they go about doing that?
Yes, I've actually done that with Mira Mesa football back in 2022 and 2023. And then I've done that with other teams as well. It's a great part of the pregame because it helps them to get into that focused state. And then from there, they can do everything else that they need to prepare. But it also helps loosen up their bodies and make them feel even better when they go into all of their warm-ups.
Okay, so while they're in their warm-ups, while they're doing this yoga stretching, what are you asking them to think in their mind? And we're going to do an exercise in the next block on this. We're going to show our listeners and viewers that. But what are you asking them to think about? Because I'm assuming during those yoga stretches, it's quiet during that time, right? What are you asking them to kind of prepare?
The main thing would be to actually stay as present as you can and focus on your breathing and how your body feels. But then you can use some self-talk or cue words that help you to, get into the zone that you need to perform. So it's a time for you, but the breathing is the main part, and then just relaxing and being as present as you can.
So in some ways, is it per athlete? What cues work for them? You ask them that, and then those are the cues that work for them. Because not all athletes are built the same, right? So different cues are going to help different athletes and in different sports, right?
Yes, most definitely. So they have to find what works for them. It should be natural, something natural that just comes to them, and a natural action as well.
Okay, so we touched on the younger kids and some of the things that they could talk about. I want to talk about the elite athletes. I've seen you with some of the top football programs. I mean, a lot of these guys are going to play D1 sports. Yeah. Some of the elite athletes out there. What should these guys and gals be thinking before they head out to their sport on the elite level? Because that's even when the stress is even higher, right? So what should they be thinking for their mental game?
Most definitely. Elite athletes are very intentional with everything that they do. They don't leave anything to chance, really. They have a very detailed plan for their training, for their recovery, nutrition, all of those things. And then they also know how they prepare and know how they're going to respond when adversity hits, so they can become more adaptable. And they have a detailed plan as well for how they get themselves focused and in the zone.
I love that. We're going to have some advice for parents coming up here after a quick break. We're also going to have Marisa walk me through a little exercise to help me with my mental game here at the Right Now studios for Game Time with Eric Kahnert. Stay with us. We're taking a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Game Time with Eric Kahnert. So glad you are with us. We have Coach Marisa Elbers, the founder of Athletic Minds, with us. We've been talking a lot about the mental game here. Marisa, you're doing a great job filling us in on the mental side of things, and I love that. What we didn't have a chance to dive into last segment was parents, how parents can help out their kids. I mean, all kids listen to their parents, if they want a good athletic career, about training and everything. But the mental game, what can parents do to help their kids with their mental game?
I think something that's important to remember is that kids don't really need a long speech. They don't need a list of things that they have to work on before the game, and they definitely just don't need more pressure. So it would be good to say things like, I love watching you compete, maybe reminding them to control what they can control, or even ask them something like, what's your focus for today?
I love that.
Keep it, Yeah,
keep it positive for sure. Let's talk about phones. Boy, cell phones, they're great. They can provide your walk-up music, your pump-up music. My son will look at his phone for drills and everything. But he and his buddies and kids on my teams will oftentimes be on phones before they even go in for warm-ups. That can be a problem if you're just doing the endless scrolling, right? Can you talk about mentally what that does to the athlete?
Yeah, the endless scrolling, looking at random content, or even comparing your stats can sometimes just be really detrimental. It's taking you away from the focus that you need, so you're not going to be locked in if you're sitting there doing that. Instead, use your time to go through your mental performance plan.
Absolutely. Make the best use of your time. I like that. What about the stretching process? When we are stretching, how can we use the mental focus while we're in stretching to benefit us the most before the game begins?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of kids doing their stretching routines, and I get excited when I get to go in and help because they're usually just looking around or
Right.
maybe going through the motions.
Joking around, yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't really do a lot to benefit you. So if you can, come back to, I want to learn how to be present and breathe and relax my body and get myself into the zone, that's the best use of your time.
So stay focused. Think about, what you were trying to accomplish and what that zone is for you. I love that. Hey, you have a breathing exercise that we could do here? We could show people, the right way to get mentally prepared?
Yes, let's do a little bit of
Okay.
box breathing. So
Okay.
sit up tall.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to put one hand on the belly, one on the chest, just for fun.
Okay.
So this is a 4-part breath. It's going to be an inhale, a hold,
Okay.
an exhale, and a hold.
Okay.
So the count is 4 for each part.
Okay.
We breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth.
Okay.
Okay, so
Ready.
exhale. Let's inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. And hold. Another round, breathe in. Fill your body up. And hold. Exhale. And hold. One more time, breathe in. And hold. And exhale, smooth and even. And hold.
Something as simple like that. Wow, I just
Simple.
felt my shoulders drop even doing that. While athletes are doing that, they should be locked in, you said, thinking about what that could change from athlete to athlete. What is locked in while they're breathing for you?
It's just focusing on the breath coming in and out of their body.
Okay, so not even the game,
Simple.
just the breath.
You could use time after that to go into your visualization, but I wouldn't, it's going to be easier if you just do the breathing, get yourself
your mind
present,
right.
and then.
Okay, love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you getting us our mental game right so we can get the physical game right, Marisa. Coach Marisa, she's known as. Do you have a handle? You have a website people can check you out? Because you got to have Coach Marisa out to your practice, your games, because she's got to get your athletes right up here so they can get right here.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Mental Skills Training, all one word.
Okay, love that. Thank you so much, Coach Marisa. I really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Coming up here, we're going to have a heartwarming Kentucky Derby story. An elderly man in hospice care, one last wish to make it to the Kentucky Derby one last time. CBS's David Begnaud stepped in to help. That story coming up. I really do feel better after those breathing exercises. That was great to see. Welcome back to Game Time with Eric Kahnert, everyone. This heartwarming Kentucky Derby story now. An 89-year-old super fan who wanted to make it to just one more Kentucky Derby, but wasn't sure how. And that's where CBS's David Begnaud came in.
This is the story of an 89-year-old man in hospice care. One last wish. And what happens when you ask? He wants to go to the Kentucky Derby this weekend. He's a Louisville, Kentucky native. Bob Y is his name. I'm trying to get a ticket for him, his wife Barbara, and his caretaker. He's in a wheelchair on oxygen and unable to walk. Churchill Downs, home to the Kentucky Derby, said they would be happy to grant Bob's wish.
Mr. Bob, I'm David.
We flew to Louisville and met him on Derby morning. Bob, who is often confined to his bed these days, was up and ready to go. His children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren had all gathered to send him off.
It's amazing. He deserves it. He's the best.
This is crazy. It is crazy.
The Kentucky State Police showed up too. There was nothing wrong. He just wanted to be a part of doing something good.
I never had my picture taken so much.
All right, let's load him up. Miss Barbara, how you feeling?
Shocked and surprised and thankful, very thankful, and excited.
The lights came on and the sirens wailed as we went screaming through the streets of Louisville, headed to the greatest horse race in the world.
So, Mr. Bob, this is your 80th Derby
Right. In
How-
a row.
in a row.
Before Saturday, Bob Y had attended 79 Kentucky Derbies in a row. His first, he says, was in 1947.
To the sport of kings, 47 brought one of the greatest of all Kentucky derbies.
This would be his 80th.
Okay, Mr. Bob, here we go.
When we got to Churchill Downs, the troopers escorted him in as a VIP. Bob was wheeled to a seat directly in front of the leaderboard with an unobstructed view of the finish line. He was then welcomed by track president Mike Anderson.
I've only been here 30 years. I can't imagine 80. That's terrific.
In a row.
30 in a row. I've worked here 30 in a row. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm a long way away. I'm not sure I'm going to make the 80 like you did.
I don't think I'll make it anymore.
Oh, you never know. I'm not going to count you out.
Bob asked Mike for one thing, a program signed by the winning trainer and jockey. Bob has been collecting autographs from the winning trainers and jockeys for decades.
We can make that happen.
Before all of this came to be, a viewer who had seen Bob's story reported on WLKY, the CBS affiliate in Louisville, dropped off $40 at the television station with these instructions.
Please have Bob play $2 on every horse to ensure he wins.
That's great.
Now, earlier in the day, Bob had chosen 3 specific horses.
22. Good. Change it. 119 and 22.
And don't you know, when the dust settled, the top 3 finishers were 19, 1, and 22.
All 3 of Bob's picks, please.
Derby Bob still had it. And then I leaned over to tell him something else. His 80th Kentucky Derby, almost certainly his last, also marked the first time that a woman trainer has ever won the race. Bob watched Cherie DeVoe make history.
The first woman trainer to win a Kentucky Derby just won.
When it was all over, Bob was smiling, but we had one more thing to do. Program in hand, Churchill Downs official Darren Rogers escorted us to the table where the winning jockey and trainer were seated.
This is for Derby Bob. Derby Bob has attended his 80th consecutive Kentucky Derby.
They signed the program, fulfilling Bob's request.
It's very emotional because the Kentucky Derby is a part of the fabric of the people here in Louisville, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and Derby Bob is what the Derby is all about.
We immediately took that to Bob's house, where we found him in bed, still smiling.
And you got to see the first woman trainer in Derby history. That's her signature. And the jockey, just for you, my friend. You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
How about that? Derby Bob, 80 years of going to the Kentucky Derby. By the way, 80 years ago, the ticket to get in, about $1.20. Nowadays, costing about $137. Incredible story. Coming up here, we also have a great story for you here when it comes to local youth sports. Hockey coming to North County. Yeah, Front Wave Arena. We're going to tell you all about that coming up here after a quick break. Welcome back to Game Time with Eric Kahnert. Look, professional hockey officially coming to North County. Front Wave Arena announcing a new Federal Prospects Hockey League team set to debut this October. This isn't just about the pros. It's a major investment in Oceanside, featuring new permanent ice and youth development programs to grow the game locally. You can even help choose the team's identity through an upcoming Name the Team contest. Get ready for the puck to drop at Front Wave Arena, the new home for hockey in San Diego. You can visit frontwavearena.com for more. As a hockey player growing up, I'm excited to hear about this. All right, well, on Friday night, did you see this before the Phillies-Marlins game? Miami Dolphins QB Malik Willis threw a terrible first pitch. I can tell you it's not easy. I threw out a pitch at the Padres. Thank gosh it wasn't this bad. I was just a little off the plate. But this guy was off everything. In March, Willis signed with the Miami Dolphins a 3-year, $67.5 million contract. Played in 4 games last season with the Packers. Started 1 game. And you know what? Maybe you should just focus on football. Still fun to watch. I want to leave you with a personal thought here today. In my years as an athlete and as a coach, I've seen a lot of kids say they want to be great. But here's the reality. You get out what you put in. If you have games 2 days a week, for let's say here, and it's easy to get up for those 2 games, right? But what you do on these other 5 days, that's what determines your legacy. You can't just talk about being a starter on a team. You have to set aside time every single day to make yourself better. Whether it's 20 minutes of footwork, the extra swings, studying the game, or just getting out and playing catch with your dad, whether it's football, kicking the soccer ball around, or taking those extra swings, studying the game. If you're a baseball player, watch the Padres, learn from it. Championships are won when the stands are empty, when no one's watching. You got to put in that work. Don't just say you're putting in the work either. You got to prove it to yourself on the days that no one's watching. And I want to say, Ted Williams, one of my favorite athletes all time, remember what he said about all this. It's not the will to win that matters. Everyone has that. It's the will to prepare to win that matters. Thanks for joining us here on Game Time with Eric Kahnert, everyone. We will be back next week.